did you get into programming?
Well, initially, when I was in high school, they had one BBC Model B and 6 Sharp MZ80Ks. Right. And as you can imagine, all the kids were wanting to play on the Beeb, or play all Defender and all Dig Dug and Space Panic and all the great games that were out for it. But obviously, because no one wanted to play on the Sharps, because they were like businessy type computers, I thought, well, because my love of games came from the arcades, and while I was waiting to play the games, I thought, well, you know, they had computers and they had stuff to type in out of the mags. I thought, out of the instruction manual that came with the computers. I thought, well, if I can teach myself how to program, then I can start making my own games. So I started typing stuff in out of the magazine in school. Not the magazine, sorry, the instruction manual. And then I was seeing like the same kind of instructions coming up again and again in the different ways, and then I was learning what it was doing on screen and what it was doing in the code in the program, and then started modifying it and then getting my own stuff, and then I started writing a scrolly road program, and then I started doing a Pac-Man clone. You know, obviously it wasn't as brilliant as the original Pac-Man game, but it was my first interpretation of it.
So you're typing in the code out of the
yeah,
books,
typing in the code out the books,
the
and
similarities between some of the blocks of code.
Yeah, like what the prints were doing, the print at, and like the for next loops and the ifs and thens and go tos, and.
So you're programming in BASIC?
Yeah, I was programming in BASIC.
Right.
Obviously,
what machine?
The Sharp MZ80K.
Okay.
There was six of them doing nothing basically in school, so I thought I'd make the most of it. I got to the point where I was. I'd asked the teacher if I could take the book home, and then so I could go through the rest of the programs. Not programming on anything, but just going through the code to see what the rest of the programs in the book were doing, and then sort of writing my own. And then I'd come back in the next day, and then at lunchtime or at home time, I'd then go back to the computer room and type them all in again.
Because on the NZ80Ks, you had to load in BASIC, didn't you?
Yeah, you had to load in BASIC. Yeah.
Which was a nightmare.
Have you got one of them here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
MZ80A, 80B,
Yeah.
80K.
Yeah.
Then on the MZ700s, yeah, they're all there.
Yeah. Cool. I'll have to have a look later.
Yes. So going on from there, so you were picking out these blocks of code in there and
Yeah.
realising there's some similarities here, and
Yeah.
actually that little function
Yeah.
probably does
But-
something.
yeah.
So you're self-taught then?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the computer teacher at school was a maths teacher, and they obviously said to him, "You know maths, you can teach computers." So he had to teach himself, and I, being natural at it, and a kid, they just soak up information. I just taught myself faster than he could, and I was way surpassed him. Good for me, but bad in a sense, because he sort of didn't like that I was better than him, I think.
There's a lot. It was always going on. It still is going on.
Yeah.
Really. You know,
Yeah.
computing moves so fast.
It does.
And back then, I remember, just being streets ahead of the teachers, which is no,
Disrespect to,
them.
yeah, I know, yeah.
We were doing it day and night.
Yeah.
We were going home and doing it.
Yeah.
But they, they've got other things to do. And
Yeah,
you just can't
they've got
concentrate.
bills to sort out and everything. No, there's so much going on in an adult's head, but when you're a kid, you just concentrate on its soul. That is your sole purpose in life. You just go at it, hammer and tooth.
So you're doing this right into the evenings then,
Yeah, morning till night. Yeah.
You say that it sort of kind of absorbed everything.
So absolutely everything, because basically, come from a not very well-off family, and so what I would do was to not have to pay to go in, because I loved playing games in the arcade. So to not have to do that and pay to go in the arcades, if I had a computer at home, I could make my own games and play them all day, which was great. So my mum got a loan and got me a ZX81, and that was my first computer. And I made absolutely loads of games for that in BASIC. So much so that I'd have a friend come round at night and like say, what do you want to play tonight? And he was like, oh, let's do some like Star Wars. So I'd start up and I'd have a crosshair in the centre of the screen. You could move it around and then have like a baddie ships flying around and shooting them. So it was good. So I'd make like the game within like half an hour to an hour. And it's only simple, basic games, and then we'd play them.
Well, the same one, so it was black and white.
Yeah,
you know,
blocky graphics. Yeah.
So moving on to the days of the Spectrum, and then writing titles that are then being sold.
Yeah.
You're not coding in BASIC anymore, right?
No.
So how did you make the step from BASIC to machine code?
It was getting to the point where I could feel the limitations of BASIC was holding me back. It wasn't fast enough. And so the teacher had this program for the BBC. I can't remember what the name of the program is. I found it not so long back with the help of the BBC guys, and it was basically a 10 by 10 grid, or it could have been 8 by 8 grid actually, thinking now. And you put hex numbers in to each block, and each hex number was an instruction, and you could either like pick up data from one of the blocks and add it to another block and then store it somewhere else.
Pico computer.
Possibly, yeah.
I think it's Pico computer.
Yeah, and then you could, because you could do that, I knew BASIC, and doing things like if and then and comparing numbers and adding numbers and stuff. I sort of figured that out really well and really quickly, and I could make it do loads of stuff. And then I started typing. Remember, your Sinclair and Sinclair user had type-ins, and there'd be hex listings, and there was one day there was the hex listings were quite big, a couple of pages, weren't they? And I thought, I don't want to reverse engineer them because it'd take too long, and I wouldn't, because I don't know any machine code. It'd be hard to fathom out what the hell's going on on a big program. And then one day there was a white noise generator, and it was only about this big. It was just a handful of instructions. And I thought, that's the one I'm going to reverse engineer. In the back of the Specky book, there's a listing of all the hex values and what instruction they are, so you could find out what it was and wrote all the instructions down. And then, because I knew what it was doing, it was making a white noise generated by output onto the port and that, and because I knew a bit of like assembly from the Pico computer thing, I sort of picked up what this program was doing. And then the fact that you've got all the registers A, B, C, D, E, H, L. And so because I knew what I was doing with the BASIC and the Pico, I figured out what the instructions were doing for the white noise generator. And I was messing about with them, and then finding that I picked it up really well. And then I started like enhancing that, and then the next thing was I need to print something on the screen. So I'd like put stuff on the screen, and then, first thing I did was clear the screen. That was like the first. I was like, yes, I can put something on the screen now. And then the next thing I did was draw a character, and then because the biggest thing that was slow on the ZX81, the Specky in BASIC, was drawing a screen full of characters from a map, and no user-defined graphics as well, so I'd have to like copy the graphics in and then draw them to the screen. So that was really slow in BASIC. So when I did it in machine code, it was like, bam, there you go, screen full of the map, and it's like, yes, this is brilliant, and that was it. Then I was hooked. I just need to get sprites on there now. I need to get moving around, and I went from everything being controlled by the BASIC and everything, just calling little routines that like clear the screen or dump a map down, to everything being in machine code. And
is it hand-coded machine code? Were you using any utilities to? Yeah,
at first it was hand-coded, obviously, to figure it out, and then I managed to get a hold of Zeus assembler, which is great, which is one of the ones that was we've been allowed to release with the next as well, which is amazing. So I'm pretty chuffed about that. So so people will be able to carry on, or start like I did. With the and I'll be releasing some code to go with that on the SD card with the next, so that you can like a load of examples and demos that are written on the next using Zeus assembler, and they'll be able to modify them, do what they want with them, and learn along.
Oh, fantastic!
So
the first game that you wrote.
The first game I wrote in
that you earned you money.
Believe it or not, no pressure. My first game in the games industry was Throne of Fire, which was Mike Singleton game. So it's like, you got this legend who's done all these amazing games. You're doing a game, one of his games. It's like, oh no. So I had to like pull all the strings out. From my first game, like I was cacking it really.
But how did it all come about though?
Well, what happened was I was still in school and I was just coming up to leaving sixth form, and I used to go to the shop, computer shop called, I've forgotten what it was called now. Anyway, yeah, there was two computer shops in Liscard, which was like a neighbour, well, 2 or 3 towns away. So I used to get the bus after school or the weekend and go into town and go to the computer shop, and then I'd be talking to the guy, because I thought rather than just going there and getting a game and then coming back home, because I've spent the money to get there, I'll make a day of it and like find out about all the games and then anyway, as I was saying, it was getting close to the end of school for year 6, so I asked the guy in the shop. I said, because I thought I didn't have a clue where any industry, any computers companies were. Little did I know the Northwest was like the hub of the UK games industry, and so I asked him, said, "Are there any computer companies local?" He said, "Yeah, there's quite a few." I said, "Oh, cool." And then I said, "Do any of them come into the shop?" He said, "Yeah, I've got a few of them come into the shop." I said, "Can you get me a phone number or a contact so I can get a job interview or something?" And he said, "Yeah," and then got the job interview and then got the job straight away. So it was.
So what company was that for?
It was Console Computer Systems. It was only a little company, but they were doing the game that was done by Mike Singleton. They were doing Dark Scepter as well. Yeah, well, it wasn't porting, it was writing it from scratch.
Oh, right.
It was basically a Mike Singleton game design.
Right, okay.
So he wrote all the docs, and then we had to like get like as many, as close to as possible to fit into a 48K game. And so yeah, that came out for Melbourne House, which is at the time was one of the big companies as well. And then after there, went on to US Gold, and then Canvas. We did games for US Gold, and then Special Effects and did games for Ocean.
So how did it feel to have the first game out there?
It was awesome. It was such a huge rush. Being able to, it's what I totally miss from games these days. Being able to go into the shops, because a lot of the stuff's download content in it now. So you'd be able to go in the shop, and there'd be a game on the shelf, and it's like, I did that. Yeah, it was. And seeing people picking it up and taking it and buying it, and it's like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, it was. I loved it. Those were the best times. That time in the industry was like when it was its heyday for me. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. It was such a rush, and then like you get the magazines, and then you see it in the charts and everything, and it was great.
Yeah, the write-ups and all the rest of it. Yeah. So, but that game was written mostly in machine code.
Yeah, it's all in machine code. Yeah.
And you had to create that game from his
design doc. Yeah.
Did he have any feedback about?
Very, very little, unfortunately. He was too busy helping the other guys with the Dark Scepter, which was a massive title. Like one of the days that it's like firmly imprinted in my mind was he came into the office. And said, "Yes, I've done it." And they were like, "What have you done?" He said, "I've got the sword clash into 200 bytes for the sample." And what he'd done is he'd gone into the garden with 2 spoons, clanged them together, recorded it, and sampled it, and then like wrote a routine to compress the data heavily enough to get it into 200 bytes.
It's amazing what you had to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything into so little memory.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people think it's impossible these days, but a lot was done.
It was, yeah.
But that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah.